the Happy Lawyer Project. I'm your host, Akoma Moronu, and I created this show to help lawyers find happiness in life with a law degree. Together with my guests, we provide the knowledge, insight, skills, inspiration, and encouragement you need to find your happy. Today is my very last episode of February, so it's going to be my last show of the month focused on relationships and finding love. Whether you're happily single, searching for love, or in a committed relationship, I believe this show has a little something for everyone. Today, I'll be interviewing Daniel Packard. He's a love expert who calls himself a trainer of love athletes. Like with most things, learning to love and be loved is a skill. And Daniel has spent over 10 years studying the science behind love so that he can help people find it. On this episode, we dive into a lot, including what it means to be a love athlete, how Daniel trains his clients, and what the benefits are of achieving Olympic-level love. I should mention that Daniel was a former comedian, so this episode was a blast to record. I hope you guys enjoy. And welcome back to the Happy Lawyer Project. Today I have Daniel Packard on for you guys, and I'm super excited to chat with him about love. So, Daniel, you call yourself a trainer of love athletes. Let's start there. What is a love athlete?
Well, I'm going to tell you. Did it make your ears perk up a little bit when you heard like a love athlete? What is that? I'm intrigued. And I'm about to tell you, but I want to say that before I get into it, that while I talk about love and relationships, because that's my favorite topic, the things that we're going to talk about apply to everything in life. I get people coming to me, lawyers included. Lawyers are people too. They come to me all the time, and it's someone who wants a relationship, and I'll help them get a relationship, but then at the same time, they'll finally ask for that raise that they're looking for. So it's for people that are single, people in relationships, people that just want to be more self-actualized people. Listen in. So if you're sitting there being like, I don't need love, that's fine, but maybe you need a raise. So that's my disclaimer. So what is a love athlete? It's a very good question. It's something I stumbled on in my own life. I'll tell you a story that will kind of encapsulate the three aspects of what it means to be a love athlete and to train as a love athlete. This is maybe like 8-9 years ago, I was struggling to attract the type of woman that I wanted. And I couldn't quite figure out why or how. I would meet women, it would go pretty well. I'd maybe chat them up, maybe get a phone number, a couple days, but it wasn't solid. I wasn't attracting what I wanted, and I didn't know why. And then I went to this men's leadership conference, and in the men's leadership conference, there was this moment where there was like 99 alpha males, and they were pissed at me because I had an opinion that they didn't like. There was a project that they said was finished, and I didn't think it was finished, and it was my call. And they're sitting there, and we couldn't go to lunch until it was finished. And they're sitting there just basically eye blasting me and mad at me. And I was about to buckle. I was so scared. But then I really, truly knew that my heart was in the right place. And I don't know what happened, but I almost heard this da-da-da-da energy. And I stood in front of the group and I just owned it. I said, look, I don't care if you agree with me. I know in my heart what is true. And either you're in or you're out. And I just owned it. And I saw 99 men just go bloop. They just dropped down and kind of submitted. And a bunch of them came up to me in the following days. They said, you know what? I still don't agree with you, but I'll follow you anywhere.
Interesting.
And I went, what is that? And what I realized is I was owning it. And I was leading. And I was going after what I wanted. And I was letting go of being liked and stumbled upon being loved. And then I started to reflect on my relationships with women. And I realized I don't lead. I go after a woman, but then sometimes she kind of runs hot and cold, and then I back off. I kind of go, oh, well, don't want to bother her. I don't want to be I back away instead of going, no, who do I want, and go after it. So there was this woman that I'd been kind of flirting with and going back and forth with before the conference, and things had gone really, really well. And then she just kind of she vanished. And she ran hot and cold, and she wouldn't agree to a date with me. So I get out of the leadership conference, I grab my phone, and the first thing I do is I send her a text, and I said, look, I'm in New York, you're in San Francisco. I'm coming to San Francisco next weekend, and I'm taking you out on a date. Send. I was like, oh God, what did I do? And probably 45 seconds later, she texted back, and she said, I'm all in. I'm ready when you are. And it was this very different energy. And what I realized was owning it and going after what I wanted. And that is really part of the Love Athlete curriculum is you're not a reactive dreamer. You don't wait for what's going to come to you. You're a proactive creator of your destiny. You go after it. And we do this in sports. We do it in business. We do it in so many areas. We're proactive. But when it comes to love, most people are kind of reactive. They kind of hope and wait and wish. They don't go after it. And when I realized that I wanted to go after it and love at the highest level, I became like a love athlete. I was a love amateur. So a love athlete is somebody who, in the same way a physical athlete trains for Olympic level sport, a love athlete trains for Olympic level love. It's an attitude, but it's about training. I created a process that I'll tell you about later where I realized how you could train like an athlete for love. And this is kind of a powerful concept because, again, most people train for business, for law, for marketing, for sports, and they go after and they get what they want. But when it comes to love, we kind of sit around and just settle. So this is kind of a revolutionary concept that if you train for love, you can get it. You don't have to wait. You can go after it. And then the final piece of being a love athlete and working with me is that you learn it's based in mechanics, meaning you don't just kind of wishy-washy, vague, and hope. You understand the way love works and its mechanics, and you train yourself in very solid mechanics because, as an athlete knows, without mechanics, you can't hit higher levels of excellence, and without good mechanics, you get hurt. And people get hurt in love, and they think it's love's fault or their fault, but really it's a mechanics issue. So being a scientist, I studied love like a scientist, and I saw the mechanics of how to be a healthy, happy, loving person. And if you follow these and train in these mechanics, the love starts to show up automatically. So to recap, Love Athlete is about an attitude. It's for people that are allergic to average and just don't want to settle. It's about training like an athlete. And it's about having sound mechanics so you're guaranteed to get what you want. How's that sound?
I mean, that sounds phenomenal, right? And that sounds like exactly the type of thing that a lawyer wants to hear. Because as lawyers, we love programs, we love systems, we love information, and we love excelling. These are all things that I think will really resonate with the lawyer mindset.
Amen. I know for all of you thinkers, for all of you overthinkers, I'm not naming names, lawyers, but, a bunch of overthinkers. And that's a really great, powerful strength. And I think I've had lawyers that I've worked with, and they do really well in this process because the process, it really is a science. And for people that work with me, and actually, if you're curious, if they go to loveathlete.com, there's a series of videos. I'll talk about it later. But if you go to loveathlete.com, there's a free training where I lay out these mechanics, and you can see the mechanics, and it's for smarty pants, brainy people that can use their mind and cognition to awaken their heart and their inner magnificence. Because if you tell a brain person, love yourself, they're like, wah, wah. They want a system, they want process. And so, I was a mechanical engineer and I created this for myself. And so the beauty is that to do this process, to train like a love athlete, you really need determination. You need a masculine, I can get this done energy. And so lawyers are great because you've obviously built that muscle. You can't become a lawyer, pass the bar, excel at law unless you know how to get stuff done. And so you get to leverage that muscle, that masculine side of you, but harness it to a tool so you can start to excel in the feminine side of you.
I'm loving all of that. And so now I'm going to ask you the question that my listeners are going to ask, which is, how do you go from being a mechanical engineer to being qualified to train love athletes?
Well, on the one hand, it's a good question. I remember I was like 30 or something, and I heard someone tell a joke, which is like, what do mechanical engineers use as birth control? And the answer was their personalities. Ha ha! So I seduced her. No, I'm kidding. And so on the one hand, it's a good question. And obviously science people tend to overall not be phenomenal in arts of the heart, let us say. However, the mechanical engineer is just an expression of I love systems and I love understanding. And I love making things efficient. I used to design bikes as a kid and make them as efficient as possible. And I grew up on boats with my dad, and he used to pull the boat apart and rebuild the boat so he knew how it worked. And if it ever broke, he could always fix it. So I like efficiency and elegance. So then when I saw my love life just not being what I wanted, I was so stuck and so frustrated. I just used my engineering elegance mindset. I said, I'm trying so hard and getting so little. Well, that's like a inefficient engine. Why is it not working? And so even though I have an engineering mind, I have the heart of a romantic, and I love feeling, and I have a creative side. This mechanical analysis out of pure desperation. I wanted to cuddle. I wanted intimacy. I wanted all that stuff. And that's how I ended up. And the beauty of that is that because I'm a scientist at heart, the beauty of science is that it's transferable. You create equations. Newton didn't just say like, hey, objects are cool. Well, that doesn't help anybody. He came up with these equations. A good scientist has equations, and then you can transfer the knowledge in these very simple equations. And so on some level, I've made a science of love and self-love that takes all the complications and makes it simple and elegant. That's what a good scientist will do, make the complicated simple. So if you're being overwhelmed by love, I get it. If you're feeling doubt, I get it. If you're not knowing what to do and you're getting more frustrated, I get it. So what I did over 10 years is I made the complex simple so that you can begin to actually tackle this and get what you want.
All right, well, then let's dive into it. Let's talk a little bit about those principles and those systems and how the whole program works for these love athletes.
I totally understand that the next logical question, especially from a sciencey person, would be, well, how does it work? And I can't tell you.
Okay.
And I'm not being difficult, but it's sort of like physics. And part of physics is you learn about physics and equations, and it takes a while. It takes like 4 years to get a bachelor's in physics. And so if someone says, okay, I want to learn about motion, tell me about motion. I go to physics school. And so the Love Athlete Academy is where I train you in this methodologies, in these equations, and these tools. And it takes a while to explain it, build the vocabulary, build the system. It's like getting your white belt. And I can't do it in this short time frame, and I would dilute the potency and the juiciness of it. So if you're curious about it, that's what I do at loveathlete.com. We have an upcoming course on the 8th, but I don't want to just tell you I can't show you. So I'm going to give you some intermediate tips just to kind of give you something to chew on. One of the first things and kind of the principles of the Love Athlete Academy is that you get, again, these proper mechanics. Most people have horrible, horrible, horrible love mechanics. And you can hear that kind of echoed in like love songs. Any love song is like 99% codependent. They're just very unhealthy. Like even the love song, like, how can I live without you? Well, it kind of says that like if someone leaves them, you're going to die. And I know it's really romantic, but it's also super codependent and super unhealthy. And if you feel like you're going to die, if a partner leaves you, it's going to be an unhealthy relationship. So a lot of being a love athlete is having really strong mechanics and understanding why people are with us. Now, oftentimes, people have these poor mechanics where they think there's something wrong with them. We have insecurities. We think we're missing something. We're insecure. We're lacking confidence. We sometimes think we're not enough to be loved. So when we think we're not enough to be loved, we try to get the outside world to make us feel lovable. And that's called people validating us. And that's what people do. But then what happens is we think that people are with us because they think we're enough. Or they're with us because we do stuff for them. I have to be nice. I have to give you stuff. I have to make you happy. Because if any of that goes away, then you'll leave. And that's what people do. We run around, we accommodate, we're always trying to give stuff, and it works short term, but we end up exhausted, and we're always afraid that the person's going to leave us. And it's nerve-wracking, and we can't ever be fully self-expressed because we're always afraid the other person's going to leave. So I want to tell you the real reason that people are with you. Okay? I'm going to tell you the real reason. Do you want to know the real reason?
Oh, I'm at the edge of my seat.
All right, here's the real reason, which I didn't know until this experience happened to me. When I thought I was not enough to be loved, I thought if I was funny, women would love me. That was kind of my way to get validated. So I spent my whole life trying to be funny. I was a stand-up comedian, very successful, thinking, okay, if I'm funny, a woman will love me. So it's about like 7, 8 years ago, online, I meet this uncommonly attractive woman, way out of my league visually. Like I'm a 7.5 if you like funny Jewish guys, but like I'm a 7, I know. And she was like a 9. She, no joke, she literally stopped traffic. And we go out on a date. And it goes pretty well. And I'm like, okay, well, she thinks I'm funny. That's clearly why she's with me. And then we end up dating. And about 3 months in, I'm in my apartment and I laughed a little. She did like a little polite giggle. And she said, "Huh, you're kind of funny." As if she was surprised. And part of me thought, kind of funny? Like, lady, I'm like the funniest guy you know. And then I got confused. I thought, well, wait, if she's not with me because I'm funny, why is she with me? Like, it didn't even occur to me there could be any other value to me. And I turned to her and I said, "Wait, you don't think I'm funny?" And she said, "Not really." And I said, "So why are you with me?" Like, I really didn't understand why she would be with me. And she said, "Well, on our first date, from the second I met you, I felt comfortable around you." And I said, "Huh." And then she said, "Do you remember what happened on our first date?" I said, "Yeah, we went out to see a play, and then we went back to my place." She said, "Yeah, and then we were kind of fooling around." And then she said, "I told you I had to leave." She said, "Do you remember what you did?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Well, you just like let me leave." And I said, "Of course, of course." And she said, "No, not of course." She said, "Being a woman, and especially when you look like me, men sometimes kind of pressure you and try to get you to stay. And when you just let me leave," she said, "I felt really comfortable and safe around you. And I always do. And that's partly why I'm with you." And this was a illuminating moment for me because my old mechanics said I'm not enough to be loved, but if I can be shiny and funny, a woman will love me. And what she told me is the real reason that people are with people, which is it's all based in feeling. We're with people because we feel good around them, not because they do stuff. I mean, that's nice. It's a bonus that gives us a good feeling. But at the end of the day, people choose you based on how they feel. And I know this seems obvious, but it's not obvious because when people end a relationship, sometimes people go, "Oh, they didn't love me. They didn't care about me." No, 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 no. They did love you. They did care about you. But they no longer got enough good feeling to justify staying. Or if someone decides they don't want to date you, people will go, "Oh God, there's something wrong with me. I'm broken. It's my weight. It's my..." No, 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 no. They're just saying there wasn't enough good feeling to choose to spend time with you. It's just feeling. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'm just interested because when you talk about the feeling and you talk about divorce, that's something that I think resonates with a lot of lawyers because we tend to be decent at getting ourselves into relationships and even better at getting ourselves out of relationships. Do you think that if someone is in a relationship now and were to get trained to be a love athlete, is there a higher likelihood that are in the wrong relationship, or can you salvage a relationship even if it started off for the wrong reasons?
Well, it's a good question, and I have this annoying habit of not answering the question you're asking because I'm always trying to get people to a new level and a new way of loving that's healthier. So what you're kind of saying is, hey, if you're in a relationship where you're covered in scorpions, do you think you should learn an immunity to scorpions or maybe just go be in a lower scorpion atmosphere? And the love athlete part of me says, I want to train you so you are never around another scorpion to begin with.
I completely understand what you're saying.
So from that place,
Mm-hmm.
here's what I'm here to tell you. There is a time to stay in a relationship and move through it. And then there's a time to leave. And as we all know, people get stuck and enter what I call zombie relationships, where you basically start to lose all your energy. And when you leave, you don't even know who you are anymore. And as you can imagine, I get a lot of clients coming to me who are in these zombie relationships or just out of a zombie relationships. And they're scared. They're like, I don't want to do that again. So the way that you avoid that is it has to do with self-love. Because if you think you're a 7 out of 10, like you love yourself 7 out of 10, you naturally think you only deserve 7 out of 10 love. It's called worthiness. How much love you think you're worthy of. Because if you think you're only a 7 out of 10, you don't think you're allowed to have 10 out of 10 love. That's for the enough people, the people who aren't broken or damaged. So you subconsciously will enter 7 out of 10 relationships. And even if it's not serving you and it's unhealthy, you'll rationalize it and justify it and say, well, they're trying, or he's really great with my kids, or he doesn't hit me. Like you'll rationalize staying in the 7 out of 10 you. So what I do when I work with people is we raise your self-love and your level of worthiness so high that you don't go for 7 out of 10 relationships anymore. You're just going for 10 out of 10. And when you're really clear about what you deserve, you know exactly or much more likely when to leave.
I suspect that there are a lot of people who think that they are a 10 out of 10 in the self-love zone, but who aren't. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know a lot of people are like, no, I'm totally fine. I think I deserve the best. I am awesome and anyone would be lucky to be with me. But there's something under there that's not 100% authentic or really believing that they deserve that. And I don't know if you can have any thoughts about that type of dynamic.
Well, no, it's a really good question. And there's different versions of self-love and different ways that it shows up. And yes, if you're someone that's like, I'm awesome, I'm great, I have a lot to offer, I deserve love, that's great. Hold on to that. But the simple fact is that your consciousness, it's like a complex garden. And a garden, you can look at it from one level, which is a flower, but you can look at another level from like an atomic level and photosynthesis and all this stuff. So people see that stuff and they're like, I love myself. Everything's great. That's one level. But I get people all the time that come to me and they're like, I don't get it. I'm great. I think I'm wonderful. Where's the love? And in about 4.8 seconds, I can do an MRI scan on them and I can see exactly where they're not loving themselves. They just don't know it because they don't understand the way the garden works. And one of the benefits of being a love athlete, and you use these tools that I've developed, is very quickly you see these massive pockets where you just didn't know, because most people don't know. I study it. But here's the thing. You won't be able to see where you don't love yourself. That's harder to see. With the tools that I give you, you'll see it. But just right now, you'll see where it shows up. You'll see the behaviors that show up as a result of lack of self-love. For instance, if you need people to like you, if you feel a need to be liked, or you feel stress or worry or fear when people don't like you, that's a self-love issue. If you have a fear of public speaking, or you get stressed about speaking in front of people, that's a self-love issue. If you have fear at all, really, most fear is an effect of a lack of self-love. Really, if you're not fulfilled or you feel stuck, all of that, believe it or not, it's the exhaust of the self-love lack of self-love engine. So I don't tell people love yourself. I tell people look at the areas in life where you're afraid. Look at the patterns in your life that you can't break. All of those are an effect of that, because don't think of it as self-love. Think of it that if you don't love yourself, you now need the outside world to love you. And once you need the outside world to love you, that creates fear. It creates the concept of fear of rejection. You need people to like you. You have a fear of being alone. That's where you'll see the lack of self-love. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy you said all of that, because I think that lawyers particularly have kind of this good student mentality and are people pleasers. A lot of us go into this business because we want to be of service. We want to create an impact. But then somewhere along the line, we start to and we were all good students. That's how we end up, especially my audience, at Ivy League schools, at top law firms. It's because we're really good at letting other people set expectations and meeting those expectations, and then letting those expectations tell us that we're worthy. And so it's really hard, I think, for the average lawyer to then say that even if somebody doesn't love me, I'm still lovable. Even if somebody thinks I'm a bad lawyer, doesn't mean I'm not smart. Even if, there's all these things that you need to detach somebody's opinion of you and their opinion of your work product or your way of showing up in the world from who you are.
Well, you're absolutely right. It's not just hard, it's basically impossible. And I'm saying this because if you have a belief, I work with people's belief systems. And if you have a certain belief system that says I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable, that's where you're at. You can't go, okay, I'd like to not care what people think of me. But it doesn't work that way. It's like if you have a boat and there's a hole in the boat and water's coming in and your boat is sinking and you're like, I'd really like my boat to float. I'd really like to not have water in the boat. It's great. But the mechanics dictate that you will. And so I don't tell people love yourself. I don't do that. That sets them up for failure. It's like telling an obese person, just don't eat French fries. Like, that's not compassionate, because the French fries is an effect of a whole consciousness. So a love athlete comes and they train and they work the core themselves such that eventually they love themselves. I don't just come in and say, love yourself. It's not nice. I built this process and a set of tools so you could train to actually get there. Because yes, if you don't love who you are, you by nature are going to look to the outside world for validation. That doesn't make you bad or wrong. That's just the karmic cost. You can't outrun it. Everyone's doing it. We don't love who we are, and then we're stressed trying to get the outside world to love us. And even though we know it doesn't work, They tell us, even though we know it. We're addicted to it because if you don't love yourself, that is the cost. And so I'm telling you, all you out there that are suffering and struggling and stressed, trying to get the outside world, I've done the video game. I've played that video game. I tried to get the outside world to line up to be happy. It just doesn't work. And on some level, we all know that. We just don't know how to stop the haunted house. And so what I did and built was this gym where you could come and actually leave the haunted house.
Let's go into that a little. I know we started to touch on it before with the principles, but what are some practical tools? Can you talk a little bit about how you do this training, what this process is like? For people who have never done a course, subscribed for a course, who just have no idea what you're talking about, how would you describe it?
Well, the course itself is based on these principles that I developed. Again, it was creating a process. And essentially, the course that I do called Next Level Love, that's starting on March 8th, that you can find out at nextlevel.love or go to loveathlete.com, is there's basically accidentally lower our self-esteem all day long. There are choices that we make all day long where we subconsciously basically lower our self-esteem and we don't even know we're doing it. And then we wonder why our self-esteem is low. So by getting mindful of these 6 ways called the hurty choices, because they hurt your love life and they hurt your self-esteem. These 6 choices, you get very conscious of those 6 choices and you basically wean yourself off them. That's phase 1. It's sort of like you realize the French fries are poisoning you. Then phase 2, you go from hurty choices to flirty choices. And these are the 6 ways that each day you can build self-love, but also attract more love from others. So you're kind of building a self-awareness toolkit so that you, through awareness and practice and courage, you can basically stop eating French fries and start eating salad. You really are building a self-love diet, just like Weight Watchers. And through that, you naturally lose emotional weight. You become lighter. So it's a process of sort of moving from one set of choices that hurt you to another set of choices that awaken your inner greatness and then attract all the love that's out there. That's kind of the overarching. But one of the tools or part of the toolkit is, well, it's not necessarily part of the toolkit, but it's a tool that I help people, which is a way to leave your comfort zone. Most people know that they live in a comfort zone, but then they don't know how to leave their comfort zone. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show because I think that lawyers particularly are very risk averse. So leaving comfort zone is something they struggle with. And everybody I've talked to, I really try to dive into that because it's hard to imagine how a lawyer who goes from the comfortable 6-figure salary takes a leap of faith on something they love.
Exactly. And what I do with people is I don't like telling people what to do, like leave your comfort zone, because again, it's just not compassionate. It's like telling a kid that crawls, just go run. It's just not compassionate, because if you don't give them the how, an actual way to do it, then they're going to try, fail, and just feel worse about themselves. Mm-hmm. So I don't tell people to do anything. I give them a process and mechanics so they can actually pull it off. And I'll give you one of these tips. Okay, let's just try it right now. Okay? So
fantastic.
pick a topic. Think of something in your life. You don't have to reveal it that would be scary for you to do.
Okay.
Do you mind revealing it? Or maybe something with your partner, like being honest or revealing how you feel, something that's got a little bit of juice on it. You don't have to say exactly what it is, but the genre that it's in your relationship.
Sure. So there are activities he thinks I still enjoy doing with him. This is not like really weird and personal. There's just, like when you're flirting and dating, you pretend you like things that they like that I don't like and I don't want to do anymore. Am I allowed to say no? Am I allowed? We've been together for 10 years.
All right. So already there's so much juice right there. So first of all, am I allowed to say no? That's a worthiness issue. See, it's hard for us to see this stuff. And you have high self-esteem and you probably think, well, I'm worthy of love. But if you were really worthy of 10 out of 10 love, you would know that absolutely, positively, part of 10 out of 10 love is absolutely getting your needs met and absolutely speaking up.
But what about his needs? What if his need is for me to do that thing or to do?
No, see that there's your excuse.
Oh, okay. Is that what that is?
Yeah. See, there's your blind spots, and this is why these tools are potent, is because they reveal your accidental blind spots. See, of course you're supposed to care about him, of course. But when people are afraid to speak up and get their needs met because they think they're either not good enough to be loved or have to be accommodating to be loved, will then create an excuse to avoid doing it by saying like, well, what about him? I'm so concerned about him. But you'll often use that strength to hide a weakness, which is you're too scared to say no. Is that fair?
No, yeah, that's completely fair.
So that's, again, how these tools work. They reveal your shenanigans because it's our excuses and our justifications which often hide us from having our breakthroughs. See, I'll just say that we're so full of excuses and justifications that we stay in our comfort zone. And if you don't locate these justifications and excuses, you'll stay in your comfort zone. And so one of the benefits of the tools is you'll spot your excuses. So there's number one. You're actually afraid to speak up, and you're afraid for him to not like you, or you may have some accommodation patterns where you think you have to be accommodating to be loved. And so you then hide that by saying, well, shouldn't I worry about him? Well, of course you worry about him. But there's a fear there, which is to speak up. Because absolutely speaking up, telling our partner what we need is absolutely 100% part of 10 out of 10 love that most people don't do. Then they don't get their needs met. Then they get resentful. And then you disconnect from your partner. Make sense?
There's so much there. Yeah, completely.
I know.
And it's interesting because you're right. I'm somebody who does a lot of self-development work and self-worth work. So it's something that I, in isolation, do for myself. But when it comes to our relationship, because there's two of us, I can still fall back on the excuse of him and him being his own person. So I'm like, oh, it's his fault that I'm saying no. Because I would never let myself make that kind of excuse if I was saying unwilling to admit something to myself, Like I'm much better about calling myself out for myself. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting.
It's very interesting. And these excuses are very hypnotic because we like them. Because ultimately the work to go out, be fully self-expressed, be fully authentic, when you're first learning to do these things, they're scary. They're just really scary. And humans don't like to be uncomfortable. So we'll subconsciously hypnotize ourselves back into our comfort zone. So these excuses we really like, they're created by us to keep ourselves comfortable. And and that's why love athletes they train to spot these ahead of time. So when they come down the pike, you know them and you don't fall prey to them. But see, this is a part of self-love. Again, is being fully self-expressed. We get into relationships to be ourselves, to be authentic, and to be witnessed and acknowledged. That's what creates connection and intimacy. But then we aren't fully self-expressed. It's fine if you want to worry and collaborate what your partner needs, but to go up to your partner and say, hey, here's me, 100%. I don't like what you like. That's fully you. And there's a thrill and an excitement about just being fully you. It's part of love is keeping the other partner happy, but really it's about being fully self-expressed. That's where the meat is. That's what that alivening feeling of I was me and I was loved no matter what. Whoa, that is sexy. And oftentimes couples lose that because each side is hiding in their comfort zone, trying to make the other person happy. But then we lose intimacy and we lose that crackle aliveness that leads to sex and intimacy. So being fully self-expressed is a principle of a love athlete, and you need to learn to do it because it's scary. So here, I'm going to show you a way to do it without being so scary, okay?
Go for it.
Now, when we think we're not enough to be loved, we then naturally are looking to be validated from the outside world. Agreed?
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, okay, I'm going to tell my partner how I feel, that will naturally create a feeling of, well, what if he says no? What if he doesn't approve? What if he judges me? Now, if you get validation from him, that's soul crushing. It's too scary to try because you're putting your worth and your measure of success in his answer. So you're naturally vulnerable and you're naturally scared to act, okay? So on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low, 1 being zero fear, 10 being a ton of fear, how scary is it to walk up to your partner and say, I don't like that thing that you like? How scary is that?
Saying it isn't scary. I just don't want him to be sad.
Well, that's the same thing.
Is
It's
it?
saying it and him. Well, I'm going to say it and he's going to be sad.
Okay. I would get, I'm like a 5, 50-50.
What if he's sad and you think it means that he doesn't approve of you and love you as much?
Oh, that's really high.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if he's sad and doesn't approve of me, then that's like a 9.
Exactly. That's why you're not doing it.
So, okay. I get what you're saying, but
No, you don't.
No,
That's the little brat going, okay, fine. Like, I just totally busted you wide open. And instead of going, that's helpful.
No, it is
Your
helpful.
ego is like, okay, Mr. Love Expert.
I'm going to go tell him right after this. Don't you worry. And I'm going to tell you how it goes. One of the things I'm trying to do this.
Let me finish the exercise, okay?
Go for it.
So that is a model where you say, I'm going to tell him I don't like it. Maybe he's sad, and maybe he doesn't approve of me because maybe part of him loving me is I like his stuff, and he's going to maybe not like me as much. And that's super duper scary because you're putting your measure of success in his hands. Now, to avoid doing that, you're going to tell yourself what's called a rule. Mm-hmm. There are these rules that scare us away from self-expression, like, I don't want to hurt his feelings. Fair. And that will force us back into our comfort zone. You go to think it and you're like, I'm going to make him sad. I want to be a good wife. I don't want to make him sad. There's a rule. I can't make him sad. Therefore, I shouldn't try. So check this out. We're going to take your measurement of success away from him and we're going to bring it to you.
Yep. Doing the work.
So if you did it, can you see that you could be proud of yourself for being courageous, for leaving your comfort zone, and for doing the scary thing of being fully self-expressed and going after the love that you deserve? Can you see that you could be proud of yourself if you did that no matter what?
Oh, absolutely. And absolutely. And I love that. I think that success is doing the hard thing, right? Doing the work, as I was saying before, uncoupled from the result.
So if in this moment, just right now, imagine you go tell him, I don't like what you like. Now, of course, you'll do it mindfully and with love, but you're going to do it. And no matter what he does, worst case scenario is he says, I'm sad. I don't like you as much. And let's just say he does that. And you go, well, that's him, but I am proud of me. I'm going to look after me. I upheld me. And I am proud because at least I did it. Can you kind of connect with that inner pride?
Completely.
Now, with that inner pride, based on you, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being low fear, 10 being high fear, how scary would it be to tell him how you feel if you could stay connected to your worth and you validate yourself? How scary?
Much like a 2 or 3.
Boom! Check that out!
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So many of the tools that the Love Athletes learn are tools like this. I don't just tell you guys, hey, Lisa, do that. It's, again, I train you like an athlete, so you have tools to guarantee your success. Neat, huh?
That's awesome. But so this is the question I was going to ask before, because this is where I saw it going, and I was like, where do you draw the line between self-love and self-actualization and coming as your full self, and selfish, narcissistic, self-centered?
Well, on the one hand, it's a good question, but believe it or not, it's still part of the paradigm that's keeping yourself small. Because on the one hand, doesn't it sound like a really good question? Like, I don't want to be selfish, right? Sounds like such a noble question.
Yeah, but so I am somebody who believes that love. I firmly believe that in a completely abundant world, there's no such thing as a selfless act or a selfish act. But not everybody believes that. So I think there are people.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that just asking that question is an excuse. It's a thought created so you don't try. And I'll give you an example.
So you don't think people need to be worried about becoming too selfish?
It's not that they shouldn't. It's that they're using it duplicitously, to use a legal term. Is that a legal term?
Sure.
It's corrupt. In other words, you can have a lawyer that presents some evidence, but different lawyers present different evidence with different intent. Don't look at just the behavior. Ask the intent, the energy behind the act. Of course, wanting to be a good person, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're using it duplicitously, and I'll explain it. So about 2 years ago, I needed my family to step up. They were not loving me at the level that I needed. Now, the simple fact is I was too scared to go to them and say, hey, this is unacceptable. We're not doing this anymore. It was just fear. But I wasn't connected to the fear. So then I created this thing of, well, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to be mean to them. Well, doesn't that just sound good? It's good to not be mean. And yes, we should strive to not be mean. But when I looked at it more and more and more, I realized I'm not being mean. I'm getting in their face, but it's appropriate. And I've never been mean a day in my life. I'm the most anti-mean person you'll ever meet. I could never be mean. So I created this construct of, well, I don't want to be mean, but it was a sneaky excuse to not try.
Yeah, interesting.
So I don't want to get you $3 Canadian right now that the number of times that you have been called selfish is less than 1. How many times have you gone and been you and someone said, oh, you are like so selfish? How many times?
No, I'm not. Selfish is not a word that gets thrown my way that often or ever.
Exactly. That's how you know it's an excuse. I used to have this fear of being called creepy by other women. Well, I don't want to be creepy. I don't want them to think I'm creepy, which sounds like I'm doing it for them. And then a woman once told me, Daniel, you're like the least creepy guy on the planet. And I realized that creepy and not wanting to be creepy, which I said I'm doing for the women, was because I was too scared to be fully self-expressed. So if you're even worried about being selfish, you're not selfish. Truly selfish people aren't even aware. It's like I sometimes have this fear of being unkind. But the fact that I am aware of kindness and worried about kindness means I'm already quite kind, because we know there's some people that it's not even on their radar. So if you're even aware of a concept, you're already that concept.
Interesting.
And it's an excuse.
Well, Daniel, I could talk to you about this forever, but I am looking at the time and we got to wrap up. So I just want to thank you so much for the work that you do and for coming on and sharing it with my listeners today. And before we go, what is the best way for people? I know you've mentioned it a couple of times and I'll drop it in the show notes, but what is the best way for people to learn more about what you do and follow your work?
Well, I'm going to tell you, but before I tell you, I want to say something so that someone might even be motivated to come find me, because just giving you a website, people are quite busy, especially lawyers, and love may not be their priority. And after all the heartbreak and the doubt, who wants to seek out a love coach? So here's what I'm going to tell you to all you people listening, lawyers. When we don't have proper love mechanics, love can't find you. It's just the karmic effect of certain love mechanics. And that's why you're not finding the love that you want. It's not your body. It's not your age. It's not your wrinkles. It's not your city. It's not the gender you're attracted to. I know you think that's what it is, but I guarantee you that's what you're blaming it on, because you don't understand the mechanics. And so we're very hard on ourselves and we blame other people and ourselves for our lack of love. You're fine. Everybody can have love with proper mechanics and self-love. So I want to let you know your body is fine, your age is fine, your wrinkles are fine, your heart is fine, everything is fine. But also, it's the mechanics and self-love that's keeping the love from finding you. And I'm telling you that because most people start to give up hope. Most people start to get resentful and jaded and doubt that it's out there. And what I'm here to tell you is it's totally out there. It's out there because it's put out there by God and the universe to kind of motivate you to do the work to go get it. God isn't taunting you. He's motivating you. So don't think, oh, maybe love's not out there. Maybe I should settle. Maybe I should just grab a cat. No, not on my watch. I worked too hard to figure this stuff out. Before you give up, before you get another animal and buy more clothes for it, before you give up, before you get jaded, before you get ambivalent and convince yourself, I've got a great life. I've got girlfriends and red wine and a condo. That's great, but we all want love. Don't tell yourself anything indifferent, and just know it's out there and you're fine. It's just a mechanics issue. And if you want help with that mechanics issue, come to loveathlete.com so we can train for you to get love greatness. And you're going to train exactly in the same way that you pass the bar. So if you can pass the bar, you can have love and more cuddles if you go to loveathlete.com.
Amen. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me for the Happy Lawyer Project podcast. Please head over to my website, www.thehappylawyerproject.com, for more information from today's show. While you're there, I'd love it if you'd leave me your thoughts on the show. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, or follow me on Instagram. If you've enjoyed the show, please share it with your friends. And don't forget to head over to iTunes to subscribe and review the show. As you know, each rating helps more listeners find the show, and helps me get awesome guests on here for you guys. If there's anyone you'd like me to have on the show, or if you'd like to be on the show, head over to my website and let me know, or send me an email at Okoma, OKEOMA, at thehappylawyerproject.com. A special thanks to everyone who's left a review, sent me an email, or reached out to me in any way. I appreciate you. Thank you again for spending this time with me, and if you would like to learn more about working in your gift and living your passion, head over to the website for a free gift. Until next time, bye!